It is the morning sports desk for Wednesday, the 10th of April. I'm CJ Baumgartner. There is Corey Tackman. Corey, we got the spring sports broadcast schedule off to a pretty good start. Menahga and Wadena Deer Creek from the WDC softball field yesterday. Two teams, as we talked about, wanting to be pretty competitive, two teams that are going to be towards the top of the Park Region Conference this year. And it was a bit of a grinded out kind of game. Montana Karsten in the circle for Wadena Deer Creek, Joey Cole in the circle for Menahga. And both teams were expected to kind of bring their A game. And we saw it in the game that we had on the air yesterday on KWAD. It was a 3-2 win for Wadena Deer Creek, but a lot of things happened in this game. Wadena Deer Creek initially got on the board with one run in the bottom of the first inning. Menahga counter right back. Joey Cole hit a solo shot, dead center. One of those balls that's not towering, doesn't carry like 500 feet on the StatCast, but one that as soon as it jumps off the bat, you just know is going to be trouble. They tied the game up at 1-1.
A piss missile. Is that, are we allowed to say that on a podcast? That's what she hit? Is that what you're telling me right now, CJ?
Yeah, probably. I think
she hit a P straight to center field. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes, exactly. Jumped off the bat.
I understand we're trying to be professional around here, but there's terms in these sports for those sorts of hits.
Like everybody watching didn't think the same thing in their heads when that thing happened. So you know what? I think we'll give it a pass on that one. But they tie the game up, and then Wadena Deer Creek takes the lead. Again, they end up going up 2-1. Menahga responds after both teams trade sacrifice flies. And eventually, Wadena Deer Creek would get a sacked fly that would win them the game. Montana Karsten comes away with a pair of RBIs in the ball game, 2 hits, ends up being the player of the game for Wadena Deer Creek side, only allowing 2 runs through 7 innings. Joey Cole, the player of the game for Menahga, pitching 6 innings, only giving up 3 runs, hitting a home run to her credit, had an extra hit as well. Overall in the game, I think what gave the edge to Wadena Deer Creek, one, is they just always both teams found a way to counter each other. Wadena Deer Creek made the first punch, which means that they always counteracted the Menahga counterpunch that came their way. But overall, I think Wadena Deer Creek played just a little cleaner. I think overall, there was just a couple things, and that's not to say that I think each team had an error. I think there's a couple. Wadena Deer Creek got thrown out on the base paths a couple times. Wasn't that Wadena Deer Creek played a clean game, but they played a more clean game than Menahga did. They just had a couple things that prevented them from winning the game, including there was at the end of the game in the 7th inning, top of the 7th, Joey Cole gets a leadoff RBI, or gets a leadoff single, and trying to drive her in. There's 1 out now in the 7th, and there's a ground ball to the pitcher. Karsten throws to second. Jada Dykoff fields it at shortstop, and Joey Cole doesn't slide, and Dykoff draws the runner's interference, and that's a double play to end the game. I tried to call it, and I was like, oh, wait, I think the ball game's over. It's just in terms of my play-by-play, like I probably didn't build that to the climactic value it should have been, because you're just processing like, oh, right, that kind of came out of nowhere. So that's one, if you're Menahga, that you'd want to have back, and you'd say, if we just did X and Y a little bit differently. They played well enough to win the ball game, generally speaking, but there's just a couple things that got in their way. But overall, Corey, those two teams are going to be really, really nice. Menahga had a 10-0 win over Pelican Rapids to start their season. Joey Cole pitched a shutout in that game. This is a Menahga team that's going to be pretty good, and it's a Wadena Deer Creek team that's expecting to be pretty good. So overall, it was a fun night, afternoon of softball, outside of like a 10-minute rain shower that did nothing in the course of the ball game except get my stat sheet wet and made me get a little wet and made me have to protect the equipment like it was a child. So other than that, it was a pretty good game.
I was in the studio while you were calling the game, and a couple. I guess it's early, right? So some of these miscues, I guess, from each team, you would call them. I don't know that they're necessarily mistakes. It's too early. If it's happening in a month from now, it's a mistake. But some of those miscues, I think, can probably be attributed to just some early season woes and remembering how to do it. I was also really interested in, Menahga is the 2-time defending champion in that section.
Section 5A, yeah.
And Joey Cole has been the pitcher for that team for a couple of years. And I'm always fascinated on teams like that. I was lucky enough to call a bunch of the New York Mills softball games. And where offensively and physically, all of those girls got stronger on a year-to-year basis. That sort of natural progression helped some already good softball players really grow. But I think, outwardly speaking, I remember Rihanna Roberts being such a better pitcher by the time she got to be an upperclassman than she was as an underclassman. Her pitching got better. So I was really fascinated to hear in that game, like, how has Joey Cole improved? Has she gotten better? You've been to state softball. There is a noticeable difference in just velocity from some of these softball powerhouses and teams that are there on a 1-year stint. They made it or whatever. Well, Menahga's turned themselves into a mini powerhouse in this Section 5A. They're down there all the time, which means how's Joey Cole going to improve in that center circle? And talking to you, it sounds like she has, in fact, really improved her output from that rubber.
Yeah, exactly. And the interesting wrinkle this year that I found out about yesterday was the fact that Menahga's now moved up into that Section 8 AA with Wadena Deer Creek. So not only was it a Park Region Conference game yesterday, it was a section game. And if you're Menahga and Wadena Deer Creek, obviously I'm not saying that they are the number one team in the section. It's a very nice section. But Wadena Deer Creek has been a team last year that was good, and they have all the pieces pretty much back from last year, minus a couple players. They want to be able to have that team again and try and take that next step up, and for Menahga to run right with them. Wadena Deer Creek played great. They played cleaner a little bit. They ran the bases a little bit better. But overall, these two teams are going to hope to make a little run in Section 8 AA. And so far, I think both teams can walk away knowing that they played a great game, and there's still things that they can work on to kind of take that next level. They didn't max out. No team felt like they maxed out their talent with that game, and that's the fun part because it is early April, and a year ago, these two teams wouldn't sniff the field for another 3 weeks. So I think everybody's just kind of happy to be where they're at with softball right now.
Can I tell you how excited I am just personally to around the building? Now we get to talk about high school softball and baseball. I had a slow pitch softball conversation with Jared the other day. Obviously,
Jared, yeah.
Obviously, you and me and Zeke and Kyle, and we're talking a lot of Twins baseball. Like this is about as good as it gets, isn't it?
It's great. I'm excited for the summer and with the Twins, but also like you talked about with high school baseball, especially when the playoffs roll around and things kind of start to heat up, it's going to be a fun conversation with high school baseball, softball. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this season. We have another game on the broadcast schedule Friday afternoon, a 4:00 first pitch, 3:45 pregame at the Wadena Deer Creek baseball field, Pillager at Wadena Deer Creek. And that will be on the Superstation K106. Pillager and Wadena Deer Creek, two teams towards the top of the Park Region Conference in baseball a year ago. So we'll see how that one matches out. It should be another fun one, ready to get the season going. And there's a little bit of rain in the forecast, which I don't think there is, but there really wasn't yesterday. At least I have a roof over my head when I try and call that game. So that'll help me out.
In my best John Boy impression, let's go. Let's go.
That's what everybody was saying in the second half of yesterday's Timberwolves game, Corey. In the first half, wasn't quite the same. So the Timberwolves gave up 47 points to a team called the Washington Wizards in the first 12 minutes of the ball game, and then proceeded to only allow like 111 the rest of the way. Yeah. It's weird because now, obviously, it was like a 47-26 first quarter. In today's NBA, 20-point leads really don't mean a lot. But this is a thing last year we saw with the Timberwolves where when things got weird, they would get weird. And they didn't. Even Naz Reid got ejected, a little soft, but whatever. Like he got ejected in that game for an elbow. And the Timberwolves still came out and got down to business, and they dug themselves out of the hole they put themselves in. They shouldn't have put themselves in the hole in the first place, but they did it. They got out of it. And now they had a big win over the Washington Wizards. And the reason I say it's big is because you can't afford to slip up down the stretch with a game against them. Anthony Edwards drops 51 in front of 50 Cent.
A career high,
51 points. And once he got close to 50, was just every time he got the basketball, he was just looking for a lane, looking for a pathway to the basket. And as soon as he got 51, Chris Finch like looked over the bench. It's like, get him out of here immediately. So that's just a career night for Ant.
A win that they probably not a win they actually really needed, to be fair, in the grand scheme of things. But everyone played, right? Everyone
played.
This was it could have been expected, I think. I don't think anybody would have batted an eye if Rudy didn't play, because they turn around and play in Denver tonight. And tonight's game is, I think, uber important, probably the most important game of the season. And so the fact that they did play and are like, I actually appreciate hey, let's loosen up the muscles here a little bit. Let's get into the flow of what it's going to be like to get into the grind of the playoffs, and let's get up for this game. We're going to get up for tomorrow's game by getting up for tonight's game. I like the choice to play everybody in that spot, because tonight's game in Denver is, like we said, it's big, man. It's big, and I don't know what Denver's bringing to the table. I don't know who they have healthy, who they don't have healthy, CJ. But I think my guess is the Nuggets are going to care a little less about what their seeding is. I think the Timberwolves really care. I think the Timberwolves really care about what their seeding is. They should. They've never done it before. Denver's done it. They can be a 3 seed.
They're the defending champions.
They're the defending champs. Jokic is going to win the MVP again, and he's going to be put into, he's approaching Pantheon status. The Wolves care. A 1 seed is really important. So go take it to them. I'm thrilled for this game. It's going to be fun to watch.
It's a national game, ESPN, 9 o'clock tip-off. So, Corey, you're probably going to go to bed at some point, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe you're going to stay up for that one.
We'll see. I've made dumber decisions.
Depends on how the first half goes. The Wolves won yesterday. The Nuggets won yesterday. The Thunder won yesterday. It was close for Oklahoma City, but they did get out the win. So everybody's pretty much in the exact same spot we were yesterday. Yep. Nobody gained any ground and nobody lost any ground. We'll see what happens here.
They all play tonight.
They all play tonight. The picture will get clear. For Oklahoma City, they caught a break because it looks like Dallas is locked into their playoff spot. So
like we talked about yesterday.
Right. There's a chance that Kyrie and Luka don't even play for that one, or that they're very limited.
They also lucked out because don't they play the Bucks?
Yes, on April 12th.
Saturday. And Giannis left with an injury last night in their game last night. So their path, which was arguably, I think, probably the easiest because they were all home games, now they don't have to play Giannis. Are you kidding me? That's useful.
That's useful. And what happened to everybody says is it Achilles, is it whatever? We'll see with Giannis. But yeah, a huge break for the Thunder.
Last time he hurt his knee, though, Milwaukee won the championship.
So can't argue with results, honestly.
The worst thing that happened to the league is Giannis hurting his knee, because he's going to come back and he's going to score 50 points a night on 25 dunks.
Is that what we're going to say about Cat, by the way?
We're not. That's a different game.
I don't know, because Karl Anthony Towns is coming back in the final 3 games of the season. Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN went out today and said it's unlikely he plays in tonight's game, which will be on ESPN. So he has no reason to tell them he's not going to play. But there's a chance that they're going to play Atlanta, and Atlanta's getting Trae Young back by Saturday when the Wolves play, or Friday night, whenever I think.
Who cares?
Friday.
That guy stinks. Would you want that guy on your team?
No, but watch the Lakers trade heaven and earth for him.
Well, they can have him. I mean, it might be if he decides he wants to play point guard, that would be a really nice fit. But I wouldn't want that guy in my team jacking up shots and taking the ball away from Edwards. Anyway, sorry, I took that down a road it didn't need to go.
Karl Anthony Towns is coming back in the final 2 games of the season. They don't know if it will be Friday or if it will be Sunday, but he is expected to get back and try and get his legs underneath him. Corey, how are we feeling about Karl Anthony Towns coming back? It was expected. We didn't know if it was going to be this early. We didn't know if it was going to be the second round. There was a thought that as long as the Wolves didn't get eliminated in the first round, that he was going to be back. Like that, as long that he was going to come back at some point in the season. We just didn't quite know when. Are we comfortable with him coming back this early?
Yeah, if he's healthy. There's nothing. This is one of those, like, I'm comfortable with everybody. I don't care if it's early or if it's late. If you're ready to play, then you should play. It's your job. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think
it's a bad comparison, but if you don't feel good, don't come to work tomorrow. But if you feel good, show up and do your job. If he feels good and he's been cleared and the doctor gave him a note so he can hand to his coach, it says, I approve Karl Anthony Towns playoff eligible or whatever, like, play, man. His shooting is going to be really important. He's definitely going to notch right back into the starting lineup, but that will be a conversation, is how are you going to use Karl going forward? That's ridiculous. He's going to start. That's just how it works. But he might be a limited capacity just because of not being in shape, basically. But if he can shoot, this team needs shooters. It's going to be important.
This team needs shooters bad, and Karl Anthony Towns does bring you that. I know people go, yeah, but Nas is doing so well, and whatever, is that going to mess up the flow? Not really, because the minute, like you talked about, he may be starting, but the minutes, Finch is definitely not going to give him a starter's workload of minutes like he's been here. Like he hasn't been gone all month. He's going to get kind of worked back in slowly, and it's why you bring him in the final couple games of the regular season to try and get back into the flow, work out any last minute kinks, and then the Timberwolves will have a week off, which will be another nice thing for Karl Anthony Towns. So you get those 2 games as a trial run, and then you get a whole week off to let the play-in stuff happen.
And you have Nas. Like, you have this unbelievable safety net where if it's working, if it's not working, it doesn't matter, because Nas just works. For like 3 years in a row now. That guy he's plug and play. Just put him in the game.
After getting kicked out in the first quarter yesterday, he's going to be well rested for this matchup in Denver. That's playing the long game, Corey. I
love everything about it. It's a great point. What an awesome conspiracy is Nas threw elbows, so he was rested for tonight's game against Jokic. I love everything about it.
Everything about it. So I think that's going to do it for our Timberwolves discussion. Just quick gut feeling, Corey. Do they win tonight in Denver?
No, I mean, probably not. I think it's going to be a nice game, though.
Yeah, I'm going to lean towards they're probably going to lose, but then they'd split the season series with Denver. They'd still own the tiebreaker, so all the Wolves need to do is finish with the exact same record and hope that they slip up in the next couple days and something happens one way or another.
How about this? Would you be surprised if they won?
I would not be surprised if they won.
Not even a little, right?
Right. It's just
the only outcome that I would be surprised by is if either team gets waxed.
Right.
I don't see that happening.
Keep in mind, the last time the Wolves were in Denver, they did wax the Nuggets on that Friday night game. So,
yeah, they didn't have somebody. I think Jamal.
They didn't have Jamal Murray. Yeah.
Is Jamal playing tonight? I don't know. That's the thing.
He's been back, for the last couple games.
He is. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of almost full strength versus full strength, which is
right.
This is whatever, man. It's late season basketball. It's late season sport. We're in it. This is a good time for sports right now. Masters this week. This is the best.
Makes us forget about the Twins for a little bit. As of recording, they're playing their game with the Dodgers right now. We'll talk about them more tomorrow. But they also play a day game tomorrow afternoon at like noon, I think. So it's a weird. Once again, baseball is a weird schedule for the Minnesota Twins in the first month of the season. The time of year you want to get reinvested in the team where they're going to play when you're at work. So that's a great thing. Anyway, last thing with the Minnesota Wild is that they have been eliminated from playoff contention. Corey, here's your eulogy. What do you have for the Wild?
There's always next year begins today.
That it?
Good try. Better luck next year. Thanks for showing up. The pranks on Twitter with Marc-Andre Fleury and Duhaime were really funny. Way to keep the vibes high at the end of a losing, not fun season.
Right.
Better luck. Go get them, guys.
Yeah, it's just been that kind of year. They started off really bad, which they've done the last few years. They got banged up, which didn't help either. They fired the head coach. They gave him a mini shot in the arm, but ultimately this team was hurt, and that they didn't have Spurgeon for most of the year. They didn't have a couple other guys. I get it. The the Wild, are also kind of an aging roster with a lot of veterans, and there's Kaprizov and there's a couple other guys with young talent, Boldy, Faber, whatever, but it just feels like they're in a weird spot right now. They're in one more year of salary cap heck next year. And then after that is when we can kind of fully start to see what old Billy G's got cooking for the Minnesota Wild.
I will, when this season is over, be willing to overlook a lot of things because they are over 500 still.
Right.
Like I will be able to talk.
Technically not a losing season for them.
I will. Yeah. So I will be able to, when this season is over, now apathy might set in. Now at the end of, they've been eliminated. It's going to, you're going to see some guys get some playing time, some two-way contract. You know what I mean? It's going to get weird at the end, which is fine. But I think most Wild fans will be able to say that it was just not a single thing about that wasn't weird.
Right.
So if you remove the weirdness, this team is probably in a little better shape. I'll be willing to talk myself into that at the start of the next season. But because the season was so weird, I think we're all just ready to flush it. Let's just get it out of here.
I'm glad that the Wild took the baton for weirdest team in Minnesota this year from the Minnesota Timberwolves, so that way the Wolves could have the season that they're having. So thank you.
I am
Wild.
Totally willing to trade Wild weirdness for a Timberwolves championship.
Would you have this question, and then we'll end. Would you rather have the Wild just their 11-year playoff streak or whatever it is just came to an end? If you could have an 11-year playoff streak for any Minnesota sports team, which one would it be?
An 11-year playoff streak
where you make the playoffs. No success in the playoffs are guaranteed. You just can guarantee, if somebody says, I will guarantee you this Minnesota sports team will get into the playoffs for 10 years in a row, which one is it going to be?
I mean, playoff fandom experience. The Vikings essentially are always in the playoffs. The Twins make the playoffs more than they don't. The Wild, I just went through, the Wild were however many, whatever that number you said was. Like, that is my experience. I'm not trading anything. You're just this is like getting rid of one addiction and supplementing it with another. I don't drink anymore, but I smoke 3 packs a day. Like that's
it's not trading for anything. It's just which one would you have?
Which team would I rather have make the playoffs for 11 straight years?
Yeah.
I guess probably the Wild because I would become frustrated with all the other ones that they didn't have success. I would be less frustrated with the Wild making the playoffs 11 straight seasons and not having any success because if we were to rank the 4, I would probably rank them 4th.
Yeah. I'd say if there was one team I could guarantee a decade's worth of playoff success or a playoff getting to the playoffs, regular season success, it would have to be the Twins, honestly, just because baseball is such a long season that at least if every year they're going to make the playoffs, it helps your summers kind of go a little bit. The baseball playoffs are weird, like football, where just get in and any team once they're in can win. Where in the NBA and the NHL, it's typically not the case, especially in the NBA. So that'd be the direction I'd lean in.
I mean, that's the positive answer on all of this is yes, of course. Like just get in and hope that the weird thing happens for your team for once. But yeah, my outlook on if you're not guaranteeing me any sort of success, well, I just went through it. The Wild just went to 11 straight playoff seasons in a row and never had any success or whatever the number is. And I don't really care that much. If the Twins make the playoffs and don't perform, it bums me out. If the Vikings make the playoffs and they lose in the first round, if they lose to the Giants, a team they should never lose to in the first round, I'm going to be mad about it for a week. I already don't care that the Wild aren't in the playoffs.
By the way, breaking news, and we'll end the podcast on
this. Let's break some news.
The Twins were 0 for 33 with runners in scoring position.
Ish.
It's over. It's over as we speak. Byron Buxton gets an RBI hit.
Do you know why? Do you know why it's over? because 34 is Kirby Puckett's number. And that would be disrespectful.
Disrespectful. You're right.
To the Hall of Famer.
To the Hall of Famer. Buxton is now 4 for 10 with runners in scoring position this season, so a 400 average with runners on base. Turns
out that guy can play ball a little bit, huh?
Twins are ahead 2-1 in the bottom of the third as we speak. Of course, if you're listening to this, the game is probably over. But
Dodgers stink. Boo. Boo. Dodgers. Boo.
See, somebody's going to look up the final score on their phone, and it's going to be like 13-2. Dodgers.
Correct.
Now that you said that.
Shohei Ohtani goes 4 for 4 with 4 home runs.
Might as well.
God, that guy's awesome.
So great. This has been the Morning Sports Desk for Wednesday, April 10th.